Hi everyone, this is Vivi, and Marco is right here. Just wait. It's Marco, getting cozy up and lazy on bed. So, we are in Sydney, Nova Scotia right now. I thought that my trip for this year would end in Halifax, but I ended up finding a place here in Sydney. So that's why I moved here and I'm just hanging around town until I can move into the apartment where I'm renting to stay for the winter time. And right now it is snowing very hard. It's a snow day here in Sydney. I think it's all throughout the coast of Nova Scotia, but let me show you how it looks like. You see how much snow? Oh my god. It's expecting 15 centimeter today. So the snow is gonna be until tomorrow afternoon, I think. Hopefully it won't be so bad. But I'm just gonna stabilize myself here on the driveway. It's very nice of them to let me stand on the driveway even though I'm not moving in yet, and I can get access to the shower and water whenever I need inside the house. And they have an outlet here as well that I can hook my van to for power. So I'm good here temporarily for the snowstorm. I don't have to go anywhere because I don't plan on driving in the snow. It's very slippery and I don't have winter tires, so I'm just gonna like chill here on the driveway for a couple days until the weekend. I think until it's warm enough and everything melts out, then I can drive again and be anywhere I want to be in town. So but today I want to share something new with you that I have recently been on several podcast show. So most of them are about spirituality and life coaching, self personal development and self help and all that. So I get a chance to share my story and talk about my book. I have to say that I enjoyed it a lot, like doing these podcasts, being guest on podcasts. I didn't think I would like it so much, and honestly, I procrastinated like for probably 2 months, more than 2 months, because I was really afraid of doing public speaking. It was a little bit intense with all the overthinking in my head. I just make it way harder than it looks, and it turns out to be not that intimidating. And I just had a lot of fun being on the shows and just very much have a normal and very natural conversation with these hosts and coaches. Like some of them are actually coaches, life coaches, and it's phenomenal. And I feel like every single one, it feels like have different conversations because it depends on their responses, even though it's around the same topic. So you're gonna see like different angle and different aspects of the book and my life story. And so maybe you'll be able to learn something through the conversations because they ask very deep questions and very interesting questions. So I don't think I'll be able to show every single podcast on video, but I will announce them if they are not, and I will just link the podcast on like on Apple's iTunes or Spotify so you can listen to them. But this one that I'm going to share today is available on video, and it is hosted by Marcus Hart. He's the coach, entrepreneur, and also an author as well. So it's super cool to be able to talk to him and get to share about my story, my book, my transformation. So maybe you'll be able to learn a lot or just get a little bit of insight out of this conversation. So let me know what you think and leave the comment. And if you haven't checked out my book already, you can visit the website livingthroughalchemy.com to learn more about my book, and it's available on Amazon right now. So yeah, enjoy this podcast, and I will link the audio version uh, with Spotify and Apple in the description.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Just want to once again thank you and welcome you to the Transform You Live show with your host, of course, Marcus Hart. Today we're going to be interviewing and talking with an alchemist, a nomadic alchemist that is. She's a writer, truth seeker, healer, and she's also fearless and determined to live life free. And definitely we need more people like that in this world, as we know we all are trapped in this matrix and trying to escape. That's what we talk about here a lot on the Transform You Live show. So we're going to be talking about just her life purpose and the freedom that she has accomplished through the stages of alchemy and her brand new book. You hear about that much more. Don't not go away. Stay tuned right after these messages. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, my Transformers out there and those who are brand new to the show. So we got VV Kai with us. How's it going, VV?
I'm great. It's good to be here. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's very remarkable to have you. So, I said some things about you on the other side, and right before, we were talking about your wonderful beloved dog Marco, and how he might, make a guest appearance today. So, but in your own words, how about you just share a little bit about yourself and all that I haven't covered.
Okay, so yeah, a lot of people may know me as a nomad. Like I would refer myself as a nomad. First of all, for the fact that I am a van traveler and I have lived in my van for like almost 4 years, like 3.5 years. And recently, I just wrote my book about my life transformation journey. So that kind of made me to be an author. So before that, I was working as an engineer in Boston. And just through the process of life, kind of transitioned like from being an engineer to a nomad and now being an author. And that's what I come to the show to share with the audience what this process is like, because what I thought I would be back then is completely different to who I am right now, and the process of releasing all the burdens and the baggages to transform into a different person. And sometimes you don't even know what it would be like until you actually have to let go. And that is a really beautiful process that I want to share with the world. And that's why I'm here today.
Oh, very delightful, and you bring such a warm energy, and thank you so much for just sharing that and being willing to be vulnerable and open up to us today. I heard so much within what you said, and one of the biggest things that jumped out to what you were saying was the whole aspect of healing and being able to let go. Uh, for you, was it just a job, or was there so much other things that maybe occurred in the past that you had to evolve and end up on this journey that you are on now?
Um, Back then it was, yeah, just kind of like just a job for me. And I remember like the person I was when I just like graduated from school, and I have to fight myself to like basically fighting with the society to get a job, because that's what I was taught to do, and I didn't know like what else could be possible for me. Now, first of all, I would have to say that it was a little bit harder for me because I was actually an exchange student, like an international student in the US. So it was a lot harder for me to find a job, let alone to like find a job to have like a visa sponsorship. And that was one of the major aspect that put me to be an engineer, beside the fact that I wanted to make my parents proud and I wanted to have like a social status, because that's what everybody told me. That's what I knew, that that the only thing that I knew that I could do, because if I didn't achieve that much social status and degrees, I wouldn't be able to get a job in the US. But however, everything kind of fall apart because I got in too much stress and I was so depressed. Even though I pushed myself as hard as I could, I got um, my master degree from an Ivy League school, and I was working for the top two, pretty much like the top of the top hospital in the US. And but my life was a hell. My life was so miserable, and I just remember so depressed. Like I couldn't really um get out of bed, and like every time, every morning, I felt like I carry a rock with me going to work. That was how heavy that was for me. And that was kind of like the pressure that made me question, like, what's the purpose of my life? Like, why I'm doing this to myself? Like, why do I have to do a job that I hated so much? That I like, why do I have to put so much stress on myself? And so, yeah, I started like questioning that, and everything kind of just like crumbled. And um, it turns out really badly, and I couldn't hold up to my job and is an H-1B worker. Like we would have to rely on the employment in order to stay in the country. And so I decided to let that go.
Oh, and Marco also.
Marco, now he's Marco. Marco.
So yeah, so like that wasn't good either. So
Oh my, yeah, I knew. Hold on, let me go get him back.
okay.
Noise.
So
Sorry for that.
took a brief break from like Tenet to Marco. Vivi, I was just thinking about the fact that like there's so many people that were in your position. That so many people in your position that were in the position that you were in right now that really needs to hear this message, and they don't feel brave enough, they don't feel strong enough to kind of break free of that people pleasing habit, because that sounds a lot like people pleasing. It sounds a lot
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
what people think, and trying to live up to this idea, picture, and image of like what a person's supposed to be in life, when really that's just like a cookie cutter vision of someone else's. We don't know who started it, but we know everybody's following cutter.
I know, yeah, and like it's like the American dream. Like everyone have to live in the white picket fence house, and that's what I thought it was for me as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So like when you broke free, you arrived at something known as alchemy. Maybe tell us a little bit about what alchemy is, because like when did that come up? Was that like something that like kind of help like empower you, or is the alchemy kind of came organically as you were journeying along?
I would say that it just kind of came organically. You know, like when I had kind of like the mental breakdown when I was in the US, the first book that came to me was a book of Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. So that's like I don't know. It's one of the classic books that must
Yeah,
read,
like
right?
you.
I don't know if you ever read that book. It's like almost everyone I know has that book.
Right.
But when like during that time when I read it, it just came to me at that time, and it just kind of like sparked
Mhm.
my passion for traveling,
Right.
because that was all about traveling, right? So I didn't really quite understand why it was called alchemy, like the alchemist.
Mhm.
So I loved the story, and it reignited my passion for traveling, because back then I thought like I wanted to live in the US so I could have the freedom in order to travel the world. But like my life has evolved into a way that is restricted me, rather than giving me the freedom that I wanted. And so I just questioned myself whether this was the right direction for me. And if it's not, then I have to let it go.
Yeah.
So that was the first time that alchemy came into my life, but I didn't quite understand it until just like last year that I was writing this book, and but it was going to be about my van life.
Mhm.
So I was working with two individuals that kind of guiding me through writing the book process, and they was asking me, okay, almost everyone interested to know about your van life. A lot of people had asked me to write a book about it, but I didn't believe in myself so much. Like, "Oh, I don't know, like my life that interesting in order to write a book." Um, but then as we started digging a little deeper into the van life aspect, then they kind of uh, get me to kind of open up the whole process of spirituality and how it linked into my spiritual life, because I started van life because I wanted to get to understand myself, get to be with myself. So because I wanted to know what is my life purpose. So that was the biggest inspiration for me to live the van life, besides so many other benefits to it. And as I was writing it, I stumbled upon this show on Gaia from it's called Mystery Teachings from Teresa Bullard. And oh my gosh, it's such a fascinating show. And she was talking about the process of she was explaining actually the tarots and the hero's journey through the tarot images. And so I didn't quite understand much about tarot at that time. I have started using tarot, but I didn't understand so deep in terms of the wisdom and the imagery in these tarot cards. And she tied it into um, the alchemy process, and that's kind of triggered my interest into alchemy. And I digging a little deeper research into alchemy, then I realized, oh my god, that's really like connected everything in my life. And it just kind of like light bulbs going into my head. I'm like, oh my gosh, now I really understand the process of like alchemist, the whole book of alchemist. Because it's like if you like dissect every part of the alchemist book, very much really aligned to the process, the stages of alchemy. Like the calcination stage is when like it's um, like something that happened to kind of steer you into a different direction. And that's what happened to Santiago when the old man appeared, and he was like, no, you don't, you cannot be the shepherd anymore, but now you have to travel. um, and so I, then when I look back into my life journey, now being a nomad and travel all different places, I'm like, accidentally, I feel like I'm on an alchemist journey. Um, but yeah, like that show kind of just opened up everything for me, and now I realize this is so fascinating, and I wanted to share that story in order to get people understand about alchemy, because the concept of alchemy is so misunderstood, especially in the modern day. Because when we were taught about alchemy, we were not even taught about alchemy. We learned about chemistry, right?
Yeah, we learned about chemistry, like turning rock into gold or something. That's the first thing. Oh, can we turn
So
this into gold?
right. So but not a lot of people know that is actually a metaphorical process. It did happen in the history, though, that a lot of scientists, the ancient scientists, were trying to turn lead into gold. Nowadays, like, science is getting there. Like, they can actually turn lead into very precious metals. That's pretty close to gold. So it's not like it's impossible, but the whole concept of alchemy is about the transmutation and the transforming of from one form into another. And so that's why lead is like a heavy metal, and to go into like a precious, like, lighter metal, like something that is valuable. So metaphorically, it's about transforming, like, a heavier, like an older self into a higher self. So that's the process of alchemy. But in order to go through it, there's specific stages, and in order to understand these stages, it's a lot easier for you to go through life, because alchemy is so it's natural. Like, it happens to everything. Like, if you observe nature, you see alchemy in everything. Like, from the caterpillar turn into the butterfly, it has to go through the metamorphosis, and that's the process of alchemy. And it can go into, like, so many layers of transmutation and transformation, and it can be pretty complex. And that's why the concept is not so well understood. However, if we can understand just like kind of like the basic concept of it, it will give you, like, so much higher perspective about your life. And when you have a different perspective and you realize, oh, this is what just the way that life is, and maybe I'm not taking it too seriously or too harsh on what actually happened, and not staying that victim mentality, and looking at things for the way that it is, instead of like, oh, this is what happened to me, you know. And so when we are able to look at things in the different perspective, then you can transform or transmute it a lot easier, you know. So a really great example is that, so maybe it's a little bit hard to picture when like, if you go from like a caterpillar to a butterfly, maybe it's a little bit hard to picture, like, how the transmutation actually process, like, in your emotional body. So I like to give the example. So the other day I was just watching on my phone, like, I don't know, TikTok and YouTube, and I heard Taylor Swift. I love Taylor Swift. I think she's a really great alchemist. Yes. And she's I don't think she knows about it, neither she's very spiritual, but I think she's very natural the way that she is. And she was talking about the song Blank Space, you know, like how paparazzi and all the magazine criticize her so much about her love life, her private life. And so she went through the mental breakdown when she heard people talking about her being such and such in, you know, in her relationships. So that relates to, like, the first stage of alchemy, like something that happened to trigger you to have, like, this emotional breakdown, because that's kind of like that trigger the wound within you, right? So that often referred to as the fire that burning. And so as I see the process of her writing the song, I kind of just imagine the process of her going to the alchemy. And I thought, oh, maybe like she did get really angry, like when she like when she heard like all these negative things that people talk about her. And then she would have to go through a stage that like sad and depressed, and that's just kind of related to the dissolution process, which is the second stage of alchemy. Like we kind of have like angry, and then we kind of like go deep down into like dive into that emotional body, right? And so that is often happen like in our subconscious. And the next phase is the separation in alchemy. And I would imagine that uh, Taylor Swift would like, oh, now she kind of had the light bulb. Like, why don't I just turn this like on this negative comment into something like to a song, right? So that's kind of the process. So that's kind of like an idea. And now at the conjunction, the next step is at the conjunction is like let me write it down and just kind of like bring like all the ideas like from I don't know, from the universe inspiration that she has. So that's the conjunction stage. And then that's the stage of like writing it down, writing the song down. And then the fermentation is about kind of like testing it and, like going through the process, like whether this is like a good song to like publish or not, right? So then the distillation is kind of like trials and tribulations. It's kind of like going up and down, like trying like out the process. And now the coagulation would be like publishing the song, right? So that's kind of process, like how she transferred like from a negative comment from a magazine, like a journalist, into a beautiful song that everyone loves and everyone can relate. So the alchemy kind of like describing that transmutation, and now at the finish line, after that, like the beautiful thing about it is that her inner body, inner self has transformed along with the process, because she becomes so much more confident afterward, and she's not being affected by all of these negative comments from the journalists, from like on the judgment from people anymore. So that's the beauty of it. But the process of alchemy, it can go into so many layers. So that example just kind of give you like a small layer, like how we actually transform as a human being. But it can go so big and so long throughout the whole process of our life, and it's just not one circle, but it can go like forever, like because the universe is forever expanding, so is our growth. And so when you go through that one process and you just keep going and going, so it's kind of like if you're looking at like the seed of life, it's had like so many circles, and it's like one is just like layers with another. So it's the process of alchemy.
That it's absolutely a beautiful process, and you really captured the essence of it very, very well. And I think, well, what I do, sense here is, haven't went through this process, and I think one of the looming questions that many will have is like, uh, once you get to like a stage where you transmute, all that's been, that will appear as negative, you know, and you arrive at where you were able to turn it, you transmute it and turn it into something, transform it into something else. Like, many people just, they wonder like, okay, well, is that it? Have I arrived, or once you're there, uh, is there further transformation that, that, can, continue to happen from there? What happens
Yeah.
from?
Yeah, so that's actually a trick. So it really depends on each individual because like at the conjunction stage, it's like halfway through alchemy. And for a lot of people who are in their healing journey or in their spiritual journey, it can be really an illusion to you think that I'm already at the finish line,
Yeah.
but you're barely not. You're only halfway through, so you're only halfway through. So that's why it's so important to have the understanding, the full understanding of alchemy, and that to always give the mentality as a student, like we always learning. And if you think that you know everything, you actually don't. You don't know everything. So because there's just so much to learn about this world, and uh, we just like very tiny to the earth, and even science doesn't know everything. So to say that oh we are really at the finish line, maybe a finish line for one cycle, but not the entire finish line for everything. So I guess um, there's always room to grow and to expand. Um, so it's just a matter like um, what actually interests you at the moment, like what do you want to learn at the moment. And for me, I always ask myself that question. And I'm a Gemini, and so I love to learn. We are just kind of like a natural student, but we can get stuck there if we just absorb so much information and not really sharing. It's kind of selfish in a way, and it's kind of like blocking the flow um, of the information. As well as you learn, you have to share, because if you teach, you learn it twice. But information is also like a form of energy as well, and so if you just observe it and you're not letting it go, it doesn't really like do anything. Because when you share it, you're actually living it, and when you live it, you experience it. And when you so when you share that so when you share that, it's not just a knowledge but a wisdom of what you learn and you're going through the process, so um but at the same time, it's like if you learn so much but you don't go out there and you share it out for the world, like what's the good uh, for learning? Basically, like we went to school because we needed to learn something that we can actually contribute to the world. So if you just get like um, learning and not sharing your knowledge, then yeah, it really doesn't do anything. And if you think that you really know everything and you kind of stop your growing process, eventually it's going to be outdated, just like technology. Like iPhone has to be keep upgrading every year.
Right.
um, yeah, so it's the same with our growth process, because change is the only constant, and so is our growth. So growth is like forever. So it's infinite. It's not like if you get here, then you're done.
I like that. And speaking of just like learning and just to switch gears just a little bit, but not too much, what do you want people most to be inspired about, inspired from, or to learn from when they read your book for the first time?
So this is such a good question. I love this. Um, so when I write this book, it's because I was sharing my journey, but in the concept of alchemy. So first of all, I really wanted people to get your store understand this concept, first of all, because I think it's so imperative for everyone who wants to grow and who want to go through the healing in their life, and to get more understanding of where they are in its stage. Because often what I see is that people get stuck in the first and in the second stage. It's like a trap, very much, because if you stop and then you have to go back, So you're gonna keep running in the circle, and that was I was explaining in my book. Because if I keep letting the society and everyone else dictate me to make a decision for my life, I'm gonna keep creating the same circumstance, and I'm gonna keep like going back into the rat race, and I'm not gonna be able to get out of it to achieve the freedom that I wanted. And so this book is really for people who kind of yearn for that freedom, who wants to look for healing, and who's really serious about personal growth, and kind of dig a little deep dive into spirituality, get to understand spirituality and tarot and alchemy is not like just all the woo-woo, but like there's a lot of logics and ancient wisdom that we know nothing about. I just think that in this society we are so far apart from nature and from being in touch with ourselves that we don't really know who we are anymore. And so through this alchemical process, it's helped me to shed these layers and gaining high perspective and getting to know who I am. And eventually I'm like, I think I kind of understand my life purpose now and what I'm meant to do. And I understand the process of alchemy. And that's really powerful to me because I gave up everything um, to live in a van, like a tiny van. What's that with you? Because I'm like, I have to figure this out. I have to know what's my life purpose. Um, and now at this, I'm like, it's alchemy helped me to understand a lot what that is now, and that's what I want to share with the world because I think in that if we all become more aligned with who we actually are, then we can bring our unique gift and share that with the world. And that's how the world can transform. Because if we're all free to be ourselves authentically, that's how we can bring more freedom into the world. Because what I envision for the future of this world to be like border free. Um, a free world, you know, in like no more discrimination, no more racism. So but that was my intention. But I just really hope that this is the path that I'm going through now, and this is what I want to share with the world. That for people who wants to take the healing journey, um, like to get people to understand their healing journey a little bit better through my story, you know. So that's kind of like the intention behind the book, because there's a beautiful saying. I don't know who actually said it, but I heard it from Colette Baron Reed, and she's a very famous international author for writing oracle cards. And she said that there's no freedom for one if no one has freedom. You know, so it's like if I already achieve my freedom, my inner freedom, it's actually not really free because like the conditions of the world around me is going, as you see, like the world that we're living in now. We have been more and more restricted than ever. So I think the path that I have worked to be turn out at this time is kind of aligned with what the world is going through. And I kind of realized, because I desire so much freedom in my life, because I was raised in a very strict family, and to be an immigrant and to, you know, and I only love traveling, and whenever I travel, I had to go through a very crucial process of interview by the border control. So yeah, so that kind of like pushed me to be like, I really want to have freedom in my life. But yeah, so but the thing is like if you don't have the inner freedom, you're not gonna have the freedom in your outer world. So, and that's what Gandhi said, right? If you want to see the changes in the world, you have to be that first. So if I want to be free, or I want this world to be free, so I have to free myself first. But of course, it's not going to be freedom for one. So and so that's kind of like my mission, and like I have to share this, and I hope that everyone can it will be able to help everyone to find their own inner freedom as well, in one way or another. Most of all, it just gives you like the inspiration and the perspective to look at your life in differently, and hopefully they would take the initiative to learn more about alchemy and to learn more about tarot and spirituality, and how to gain that inner wisdom from within.
I love it. And it just brings me to like one final question, I I know there's no one contributing factor to the human condition right now, but I know we kind of been talking about it throughout this whole entire interview, and it's continuous talk about data freedom, and it really and with freedom there comes hope. And my question is, do you feel or do you think or feel that one of the contributing factors to why many people lack hope um, is because they don't know themselves, or because they haven't started the healing process, and because there's and maybe freedoms attached to that.
So for people who are going to the black hole, sorry, I don't quite understand your question. Could you please repeat that again?
There's people who feel like the world where it is today, there's no hope for it, but that that can be very subjective. And we know that once you begin the healing process, that and you cling to spirituality a little bit more closer, you can find that hope. Do you is that where you are in your life, and do you feel like that one of the contributing factors as to why people don't have hope?
That's okay. I understand what you mean now. Yeah, that's beautiful. That's a very beautiful and very needed question to be asked at this time. um, yeah, and I think hope is very important in order to keep yourself from drowning, especially at this time, right? It's like we have been hammered with so many things, like from the pandemic, from racism, uh, uh, and nature disaster. Oh my gosh, it's so crazy. So I don't understand that it's very hard to keep hope and be positive, but and that's why alchemy, understanding alchemy is so important, because the first stage is that it's kind of like trigger you to get like to burn on the lead in order to get through the goal. Now, so this process of alchemy is not going to be like, oh, everyone is the transformation, but everyone is going to be in different stages. So for people that going through this journey or have not gone the healing journey, so the pressure that we are feeling right now is actually to dig into ourselves in order in order for us to heal. Now, for those who are afraid of the shadow work and not willing to go there, it's gonna like push you down to go further and further, because you're just gonna keep going to that cycle, as I mentioned. So for me, what I look at is like every challenge is in every challenge there's a gold in it, but like you have to go find it. So in order to get the gold, you have to go and dig deep down into the earth, and it's not a very easy process, right? But there's an opportunities for what we are going through right now, um, to push us into the better self or into the better world. So if you look in, I talk a lot about Hermetic teaching in my book as well, and that is in the law of vibration. Whenever the pendulum, imagine the pendulum, when it swings to the left, it has to swing to the right equally. So now we are kind of like in the Tao stage. Eventually, we're going to go up. So the world is not going to like always stay there. However, if you're not like doing your inner work and your healing, it's just so much harder to deal with the circumstances. As you let go of the baggage, there's not so much of the circumstance, the surrounding circumstance can affect you as much in terms of your mentality and your emotion. Um, so there's a beautiful phrase from Buddha, and he said, if you don't have anger within you, that you're not very, that you don't feel angry no matter how other people trigger you. So when we releasing all the emotional baggage and all the wound, so no matter what happens in the world, it's not going to affect our inner peace as much. And so that's why this healing process is more important now than ever, in order to help us to transform it so that we can maintain that inner peace, so that we can be more creative and we can bring our own gift and sharing it to the world. And that's how we'll be able to push this world into the inclination into a better world from today. And so that's why I'm hoping that I'm just hoping I can be part of that community, of that part of helping the world to transform. Because I went to a a coaching program where my coach always say that the world needs us. Like, and whenever he ends a session or whenever he ends a podcast, he always say the world needs us. And so it like, in order for us to transform and grow from this difficult time, it requires every single one of us to step up, and to be our better self in order for us to bring the better service to the world. And we can't do that by changing the external environment. We can't change nature. We can't change the politics, right? We can't change other people. We can only change ourselves and what in ourselves. And so that's why this healing process is so crucial.
I love it. I love all that you're doing, and just want to continue to support you, Vivi. Do take the time out right now and tell us, like, if we want to get in contact with you, if we want to find the book, tell us the title of the book once again, and where we can find it.
So the book is available on Amazon. It's called Living Through Alchemy, a transformational journey to freedom. So it's available in ebook, paperback, and hardcover. So people can also download it from my website as well. The first chapter is available for free. So the website is livingthroughalchemy.com. So you can also find my contacts and my social media information on my website as well. I'm mainly active on Instagram and YouTube. So I do have a YouTube channel where I share a little bit about my travel and my van life journey and my growth lessons. But Instagram is more like for my videography and photography passion.
Awesome. Definitely going to check all of that out, and I myself too. Definitely curious about the van life YouTube channel. That'd be cool to like get on that journey as well with you and check that out. Thank you so much, Vivi, for joining us today. It's been definitely quite a bit of a pleasure to get so much wisdom from you and get so much insight into just life transformation and how we can all just assemble around this information and apply it to our own lives and transmute some of this negativity that we have that's existing in the world into something better. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's so much fun
Yeah.
for this interview. Thanks a lot. Thank you so much. And it's my honor to be here and just to share my story and get to talk about alchemy. It's really my pleasure. Thank you.
Pleasure. So, ladies and gentlemen, my transformers out there, you heard it here from Vivi. She's an amazing person. Make sure you check out those plugs. We do have the links in the episode description. You can find those to the left or the right or to the bottom or to the top, however you are viewing or however you are listening to this wonderful content that you have just been presented to you. Check the time out if you haven't already. Play this back a couple times. Maybe you missed something. If you do, play it back one more time after that. And then share it with someone you know, someone you don't know, as it does help to further the message out to those who need it most. And if you haven't already, also to subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the podcast, as well as leave a comment. Comments help. And if you have anything directly you want to tell Vivi, you can put it right there in the comment section or on the review, and I will pass it along to her as well. So that's all we have for you. Until next time, I'm your host, Marcus Hart. This is the Transform You Live Show. Many blessings, peace, and lots of love.
Hey guys, if you want a free sample of my book, make sure that you visit my website, livingthroughalchemy.com. And if you have read the book and really enjoy it, please leave me the review on Amazon. I would love you so much for it. Okay, thanks guys. Bye.